So y'all already know we got two position battles going on right now, and I'm not covering safety because I feel like we already know who's gonna win that and who we want to win it. But I want to cover nickel because people make it seem like it's just not a close battle. So we gotta be objective. We gotta look at both guys, and I'm talking about D and Billy. So we're gonna look at both of them. We're gonna talk about the tape, and I'm gonna do this after every game, and we're gonna keep score. We're gonna figure out who wins the battle. Now everybody knows who's going to win the battle, but I think it's just good we just keep score of what's going on. So in that off situation that D does win the job, which I think he initially wins it, but he won't be the starter after the bye week. That's what I think will happen. But like if he ends up winning the job, we won't be confused because we will have watched 3 games and we will know why. But let's go and get into it. Now, to make it fair, I'm using the consistent grading system that I can apply to any player, any position, that way we're just not going off a gut feel. We've got numbers that actually reflect what happened on the field. So how it works is every snap is scored from -2 to a +2, and it's based on how a player helped or hurt the defense. And then I add modifiers to give a play certain context. So for example, if D nails its assignment, then he comes off of his man to make a tackle shorter to sticks to force a punt, that's a 0 + 1. His assignment didn't directly change the play, but he still made something happen. Or if Billy Bowman Jr. stays disciplined in zone, but he misses a tackle after the catch, that's a 0 - 1. His job didn't matter much on the play, but the missed tackle still counts against him. So it's that perfect balance between objectivity and nuance. We're grading the job they were supposed to do, but still capturing the details that swing a game. And obviously it's graded from 0 to 100. So I'm gonna show y'all the final grades before we get into it. And so y'all see it right here. It looks bad, right? So when you look at the total snaps played, Billy, he played 20, D played 7. So his plays were more impactful, if that makes sense, to his grade because he has less room to work with. And so that's not really a true number, but if you want to like project his true grade out, if he played 20 snaps just like Billy, then the grades are gonna be much closer. And I'm gonna show you how I did it right there. But it still looks pretty bad on face value because wow, 29 compared to 60, and we're gonna see why. And just off of like watching the game without even really breaking it down, Billy, he popped off my screen more. D was just kind of there, and it kind of reflected in how I graded him because he had a lot of zeros, which means he did his assignment, but he didn't necessarily impact the play. But Billy did way more of that, where he executed his assignment, but he also impacted the play. But we finna show y'all. Let's go and get into it. All right, so this is the first play we're looking at. So it was motion at the snap because he was still moving. But what we're doing here is quarter, quarter, half. So we have a quarter, and then a half. And since it's 3x1, most 3x1 checks with, a quarter, half is that you're going to lock this backside. Then you're going to allow this safety right here, which is DeMarco Hellams. You're going to buy him back to the strength of the formation. So we're going to have a deep over by number 3, and he's going to buy that back. He's going to get on top of that. Jordan Fuller, he's supposed to have number 2 deep, or if 2 doesn't go deep and he goes out, that's going to be the nickel, which is D, and then he has to go look to double number 1, which he doesn't go do anyways, but another different conversation for another day right there. But we're mainly focusing on D right here because, like I said before, this is the nickel. We're looking at a nickel position battle. So his responsibility is he has number 2 up and out. So if he goes out, he's going to match it. If he goes vertical, he's going to carry that or really just deliver it to the safety and then, fall off of it and look for work, okay? So that's pretty much what we're looking at. Now his base grade for this is a 0 because he does do his job. He expands to the number 2 eventually because look, he kind of just stops. Now he got in trouble with this at Minnesota, and that's how he ended up on Twitter everywhere, where he just kind of stopped because he thought it was a sack. He got in trouble doing that, and it costed him, a reputation. But look, he did eventually get out there to number 2. But remember, this is a 0 because he did his job. But why are you asking? Why he get a 2 for this? Because he made an impact play. He got the fumble recovery, and he got about 2 or 3 yards. Ain't really tripping off the yards, but he got the fumble recovery. So that's why he's getting the +2 because he made an impact play. He came off of his man, got the ball, and we got good field position. I think we got a field goal out of this, but either way, we got the ball back, and he was the reason why we got the ball back. All right, this right here, we doing finally what I've been asking for. So we're running more man free. So we know we got D101 right here. We're going to have this linebacker free. Safety's going to be free right here. That's pretty much what's going on right here. But I think I gave this like a 3 because 1, he did a good job in man right here because, he's staying in phase, but he also did this. Check it out. He threw him out of bounds. And so now the ref has to throw his hat. So he's ineligible. So all you got to do is just watch. Now, Kyle Allen did get out here and scramble, but imagine if, he was still in his pocket throwing. that's one less receiver. So you got to give him a +3 right there because he did his job, but he also took a player out of the play completely, right? I know y'all hate him, but hey, this is a good play. And he didn't even have that many reps. He had like 7 snaps. Everything is going to be magnified. All right, this one is his touchdown allowed. So we got this going right here where it's like a little slant and then it's like a little slot fade right here. So look, now off straight impact, this is obviously a -3 to me because he gave up a touchdown. But however, you see the ball is in the middle of the field and then you look at the splits of these receivers, like something's got to go off in your head. We got to watch this switch release, right? Because a normal split would be he's right here, but he's also between the numbers and the sideline. Like that's a normal split. He didn't cut his split down, so it's on both of these guys to be like, hey man, these guys are in a close split. Let's banjo this just in case. And that's why I put it on both of these guys, right? Because you have to be able to recognize something like this, right? And we're gonna get into it a little bit later when we're going over Billy's tape, but like it's something like this where it's like, dog, I understand you're not completely at fault, but like pre-snap, you gotta communicate that. Like yeah, it's hard to defend this because one, it's not completely his fault because he didn't, he got picked on it and they pretty much could have switched this up, but at the same time, you have to recognize these splits right here and say something to your guy and, be ready for that. That could have easily been prevented. Let's go on and get into Billy and we finna show you why, his was much better. It's the first play of Billy's tape. So like one thing I will say is like he played 20 snaps, right? But he had a decent amount of zeros, which means, he was doing his job, but there was no impact, but he had more impact plays. And obviously that'll happen when you play more because he played 20 snaps compared to D7, but like this was his first play of the game. So like, look, this is what we're doing on well, not we, but this is what they're doing on offense. They're going to do this motion and then they're going to do like a little swing screen. They're going to block him. And this is really for a 2-high look. Okay. But on the backside, you have a slant and an arrow right here where if you're in a 1-high look, you're going to work this because if this linebacker pushes out immediately, you're going to have a slant wide open, right? But if you want to keep that 2-high look where, the third guy is supposed to be the safety, he's too far away to affect that, right? So that's how this play is designed. But he didn't make the play right here. But look, when you're taught to, as a corner or really as a DB in general, you have to force this guy back inside to your help. So like, he attacks the block this way, he attacks the block that way, and his help is right here. His help is right here because he has to run this alley. He has to, come and be the pursuit, okay? And look at this. He attacks that block on the outside. So like, look, if he goes, now, if we want to be real, he's on the outside shoulder, but he could have just kept going this way because the corner, he jumped inside, but he's the closest guy. He has a straight line to him. So he's going to really just force him back in. And there goes his help right there. We look at this play out. He goes on the outside shoulder. Oh, shit, I got to cut back in. He cuts right back into his help. You get about, what, no gain on this? Or he lost a yard on this, I think. And he also slipped up, too. But this was all on Billy because he forced him back inside. And he got away with it. I don't know how he got away with it because anybody with common sense keeps going once they read this outside guy's inside. And you just keep going. But Billy forced that back inside, so this was a 2.5 for me because he won his rep, but he also forced a no gain just by his presence. So this is this very next play where I graded it a 3 because look, let's check it out. So this was a 3rd down, right? And coverage wise, we're in 9. So that means so it's a 3-by-1 with the running back is a fast 4 threat, okay? So we're gonna lock him backside. He's going to be eyeing number 3, okay? Then this guy right here, he's going to be walling 3 because if this running back pushes fast, he has to match that. So his new responsibility is to wall 3 from the middle. Billy, he's gonna have 2 up and out. So that's actually what happens. He's gonna, push vertically. He's gonna have him up and out. He's pretty much locked him man-to-man 2. And then Xavier Watts is gonna pretty much be mid-pointing 2 and 3 playing over top, right? That's pretty much what's going on. We're looking at Billy right here. So it's a 3rd and long. Now we give up the first down. It was a scramble, but look at this. Look at this coverage because look, okay, let's look at where his eyes are. Let's look at where Hendon Hooker's eyes are. They're looking over here, okay? And you can reasonably assume, hey, he's trying to go down the seam right here, okay? Because initially it did present as 1-high or 2-high. No, it presented as 1-high, my fault. It presented as 1-high, so he's thinking he can hit this seam right there. So he's looking at that seam, And look at it, Billy is not giving up a single inch of grass, and he's staying with him stride for stride. So I gave him a 2 because he won this rep convincingly, but also because he forced Hendon Hooker to not throw it to him. And that's why he gets the +1 right there. Now they give up the first down, but Billy won his rep convincingly and he deterred the throw. So that's his +3. All right, this right here is another rep. I gave him a 3. So right here, we're in man coverage. This was like a 4th down, right? So once again, everybody's locked man to man. Billy's locked on him, and you know the running back is on the linebacker. So let's look at this play because it's not only a good coverage rep, but like this is what I'm talking about where you're communicating pre-snap, post-snap, all this. So look, they are in a bunch and they motion away from it, and look at what Billy does. He communicates, hey bro, back up a little bit, because he knows a switch release is coming right here, because look at that split, they're close together, right? So backing up gives this guy more space to see what plays out, because he's going to release outside, he's going to also release outside, but you know, do some bullshit, my fault, but he does some BS and nobody gets open because he communicates, hey, back up so you can get better eyesight on what's going on, and I'll get the first guy outside, you get the first guy inside, basically. But in this situation, they both gonna release outside, and he's going to also kind of just trail him and then return back in, kind of like that, right? Where they're trying to, you know, cause the confusion. But since he was communicating with his corner, hey, get your ass back. We gotta, you know what I'm saying, we gotta see this all the way through, because think about it. If he goes under, Billy's already in good leverage to take that, and if he breaks back out, oh well, he can still play that. But like, if he goes out, he's already far enough to see it and he can, you know, drive on it if he does like a little quick out route. Okay, cool. And the play ends up being made over here where he wins on the slant route. But if we just watch Billy once again, bro, the communication to get his guys in the right spot, and neither route comes open. And so that forces Hendon to look the other way. Now he already had his mind made up. He was gonna go to the slant route against man to man. But look at this at the end of the play. He's gonna look at his corner over there and be like, good stuff. He pointed at him. That's how you know good communication works out. Like, you gotta always be talking on the field, bro. And he got a +3 right here for that, because he communicated and he won his rep. And then the last one, I kind of touched on this one in the first video, but this was a counter run right here where you're going to short motion him in and he's gonna go block Billy, okay? And the run scheme is gonna go like this. So you're gonna get some down blocks this way. You're gonna have the center be the kick out. You're gonna have this fullback be the lead blocker, okay? And pretty much everybody's just down blocking, right? If you're not pulling, you're down blocking. That's how it's going. So the reason why I gave him I think I gave him a +2 right here, because not only did he win his block, but you know, he forced a small gain. So if we watch this play out, okay, once again, okay, you got your down blocks by your guys right here, and here comes the puller. You got the center being the kick out, you got the fullback being the lead, and he's not engaged on his man just yet. And this is a tight end, mind you. This is a tight end. So the tight end gets hands on first. He throws those hands off. Look at that. That's some knockback power right there. He throws his hands off, and he was the first guy to contact him, and he turned his body in a way, and then D Malone got to him too. But he kept us at a 3-yard gain, and he destroyed this block, and then boom, got off of it, minimal gain. And it's stuff like this, like it's like the little things that you just don't see, you know, during the game, where in a film where he's gonna get graded positively, because look, once again, he played 20 snaps and he had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Almost half of his plays were 0. But if you look at, you know, some of these 0 plays, he also got modifiers, which means, you know, he executed his assignment, but you know, he did some good things that, you know, that helped, you know, impact the play. So it's stuff like that. Now he obviously did lose some reps, but you know, he's a rookie. You expect it to happen, but he was far more impactful than D, and that's obvious. And so he graded out to a 60 out of 100, and that's exactly what I was gonna expect. You know, better than average. Certainly not 29 out of 100, but yeah, that's how I'm very impressed with him. It doesn't matter if you're using the 29 out of 100 or if you're going to project it and use the 57 out of 100 to grade D, but we all can agree Billy Bowman Jr. has the edge in this race. Now, will D close that gap and catch up, or will Billy Bowman Jr. extend himself even more? Pause. But that's for us to figure out, and we're going to wait on these next 2 games and we're going to figure that out. But as of right now, if y'all did enjoy this, go ahead and like and subscribe for more. I'll be uploading more in the future. With that being said, see y'all later, man.